We used to have a magic harp that sang to us each day. Then someone stole that magic harp, but as I always say, tooraloo-raloo, tooraloo-ralee. What's the use of being sad? It won't help you or me.
Hey everyone, it's Jonathan, and welcome back to Christmas in July on iHeart Movies. This is part 2 of my review with Nicki from Trivial Theater of one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen, 1972's Santa Claus and the Ice Cream Bunny. Last time we talked about the first version of the film, which included the story of Thumbelina, and this time we're covering the second version, which includes the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. Last time we also only covered the first half of the film, which involves Santa, missing reindeer, a man in an ape suit, and a tragic situation involving only about an inch of sand. This time we'll finally get to the finale of the story, and maybe we'll figure out who the ice cream bunny is, because we're over halfway through the movie, and the second billed character hasn't even shown up.
Tooraloo-raloo, no more Sunday drives. Rich or poor, I always say, it's good to be alive. It's good to be, it's good to be, it's good to be alive.
So on to Jack and the Beanstalk.
Yeah, and that I mean, Thumbelina is weird. Jack and the Beanstalk is weird in another way because what time period was it supposed to be? Because
You know what?
it felt like it was supposed to be in the 70s because the hair was 70s, the clothes were 70s, the house they were living in, that was not like medieval London or whatever.
Absolutely not. Well, I think that because the made note of that too. How the how the clothes, with the exception of Honest John, they were very uniquely quote unquote period specific. They were like 70s clothes, and they're like, okay, untuck your shirt. We're gonna give you a belt, so this is more tunic like. That'll be good. Everything else will be fine.
The clothes were so strange.
Oh yeah.
I guess the giant and his wife, they didn't have 70s-ish clothes.
Yeah.
But
the
like
mom,
everybody
holy
in the
crap.
real world,
Yeah.
it was the 70s.
Oh, totally. Well, Honest John though, his clothes were more like like fine gentlemen of the 16th or 17th century. Giant and his wife, they kind of had clothes that kind of matched, like that peasant type clothes of maybe a similar era. But yeah, everybody else, it's like, okay, you know what? Make sure that your shirts are untucked. Do something with your hair. Take off your fringe jackets. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, it was just I expected, knowing that the story of Jack and the Beanstalk was coming up, I just assumed that it was going to be like everybody was going to be dressed like medieval times, and then you're in this house, and I'm like, why are we still in the 60s or 70s? Because the house was not even trying to be medieval. It was just, this was a house from the 60s.
Yep. There was a set of fake grapes on the table. That's all you need to know right there.
It was so bizarre. I don't know if they did that on purpose or if it was just like, well, we need a place to shoot. Here's this house, whatever.
I would assume that that's probably the case, if I'm being honest.
And then they had Jack singing this song. It was weird. And one of the lines was, they had a hen that was stolen by someone who grabbed her by the leg. And I thought that was weird, and I just brushed it off. But then later on, we'll come back to it, that line now makes no sense.
No, absolutely no sense.
Because it actually turned out that line was relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have this Honest John person who is a used cow salesman.
Yes.
He's basically a used car salesman, but he sells used cows.
Yep. He's a shyster since way back.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I think that was one thing that they were trying to be funny with, and they did kind of succeed, because I did chuckle at used cow salesman.
Oh yeah. This one felt more, not that it felt more organized, like it felt like a better production.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know where the copies that I watched came from, but of either the Santa stuff or the Thumbelina stuff or the Jack stuff, the Jack section, even in the out of the movie itself, the Jack section had the clearest picture, the clearest sound. It seemed like a better movie quality wise than anything else. Like, I could actually tell what was going on. Like, the picture was not crystal clear, but
For the
close
time.
enough.
Yeah, no, agreed. It definitely, and even from a story perspective, general shooting, it was still cheesy as hell, but it still had more going on with, like, there was actual thought behind it. It wasn't, it made more sense.
Yeah. So you have this Honest John character who is trying to sell, well, it seems like he's trying to sell beans first, even though it says he's a used cow salesman. And there's all these people coming by, and there's people walking by in the background, and he keeps trying to sell these beans to people. And he also sings a weird song very softly. It was really strange. And then Jack comes along and they do the trading the beans for the cows, and he says that if he comes back, he'll give him actual money for the cow instead of these beans. And then he takes down his sign and leaves.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he skips town, sort of. I guess he goes to live in the woods for a while.
Yeah.
But another weird thing too is when Jack gives him this cow, he tells this guy to take it and I think he says park it, something like that.
Yep.
But it's a guy he was literally just trying to sell something to. So this guy does not work for him. He was just nearby. So he's acting like he's an employee. And then he turns around and sells him the cow.
Yep. He's like, oh, the cow's worth at least $100.
It was like they needed another character, but they just got the same guy who was just standing there instead of writing in a new character and hiring another extra. I don't know. It was weird.
And I think the cow was the same one that appeared in the actual like Santa where they're trying to find animals to pull Santa out of the stand.
Oh, really? I didn't even think about that. I bet you're right.
I think it's the same cow because they were both brown. They had the same kind of look to them. So
you never know. It could be.
Yeah.
Another weird thing about this scene was, like I said at the beginning of the scene, there's all these people walking by in the background. When Jack comes in and they're making this deal, this crowd of people, all these people who've been walking by in the background, weirdly, they all just gather, like they all come back and slowly gather around them. It's like they were going in all these different directions, obviously if they were sort of a real place, do it a real time, they would be going places. They just migrated back. It was very awkward.
Well, it goes to show you how slow of a town it was. There just was nothing else going on. So someone getting ripped off, was the most interesting thing.
Used cow deal go down.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah. I do that all the time. I go to watch, random. I drive around looking for random, bean/cow exchanges.
Sounds like a fun day.
Oh yeah, always. Every Saturday. Doesn't happen often. But I keep trying.
So Jack goes home, and they've added a character here. I don't remember him ever having a sister. But he tells his family, his mother and his sister, what happened. And his sister is disgusted with him. I loved the look she got on her face. Like, she wasn't the greatest actor, but when she wanted to convey disgust at her brother, she was great.
Oh, yeah. She clearly has at least a couple of brothers at home that disgust her on a regular basis.
And she's, at one point, she says something like, he's done the stupidest thing she's ever seen.
And if that's normal for him, then that's, that's saying something.
So his mother tells him to go back and get the money because he tells her that he promised he'd give me money if we didn't want the beans. And she sends his sister to go with him to make sure he's not ripped off again.
Smart mother right there.
And then they get there. Of course, the sign is gone. He's gone. It's dark.
Relatively speaking, dark.
And I don't know what happened because the next scene is them coming home, and it's the next day, and the mother says, "Where were you? I went to bed."
They must have gone looking for the Honest John guy all night.
Yeah, because she says that they were looking for that man, but like they must have stayed out looking all night. And they never found him, so
I can't think that a cow would be that hard to track, but maybe that's just me.
well, even if they found the cow, he sold it to some other guy, so they just find another guy and not
Ah,
Honest John.
that's true. They would have killed him in vain.
So then he's like, well, maybe the beans are magic. And then the mom takes them and dramatically throws them out the window, and immediately a beanstalk appears.
Oh yeah. Man, that's some green thumb level magic right there. I mean, that
She
that
must
lady.
be in the same garden club as the mother in
Oh, I
Thumbelina.
know, right? They're sitting there like comparing notes, like, oh yeah, I grew a flower and a little girl came out of it. Well, I threw beans out of a window and I got a vine that goes up into the heavens. Can't tell if the giant at the top was manifest at that point or if he's always lived up there.
Oh, he grew out of the beanstalk as well as the castle, his wife, all those things.
Wow, that's some talented beans right there.
So then he decides to climb it to see where it goes, and his mother is like, I think she's trying to stop him, and his sister's like, let him go, the beans are magic, maybe he'll bring something back. and I'm like, why do they assume that there's something at the top of this? Because this isn't like, as far as I've seen, until the beanstalk happened, this isn't like fairy tale magic stuff. Like, it seems like a normal everyday world, other than the fact that you can't place what time period it's in.
Right,
so it seemed
right.
weird that she would jump to, maybe there's something at the top that he can bring back.
Well, it's got to lead somewhere. I suppose that the magic of not knowing what time period you're in, it, maybe allows for that kind of magic.
Maybe. So he gets to the top. I think he might even sing a song while he's there.
Yep, he sings one on the way up, something about going high. What was it? Vine up high up in the sky or something like that. And yeah, it's not a terrible song, but it's just like, okay, that's a weird song.
Yeah, there was a lot of songs like that.
Yes.
So he gets to the top, and there's this door, and this door suffers from something that I noticed, I guess from other things during that time period, because I think even as a child, not even as, like, I was probably a teenager, I would think about things too much. Because I watched an episode of I Dream of Jeannie where everybody gets shrunk, and there's like this giant book, and I think they turn the page of the book, and it's obvious that it's a giant sheet of normal paper that they're trying to, like, it would be like the equivalent of turning a page in a Bible, because like Bible pages are like super thin.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, even back then, I was like, if they were the size that they are, shrunk down, and that's a normal book, the page would not turn like that. The page would be much thicker and harder to turn. It wouldn't be like this paper thin thing that like paper behaves differently. It wouldn't behave like that. And this door that he ends up at is the same thing. Like, he is tiny, and this door is huge, but the door, it's the same thickness as a normal door. Just like the paper when I was a kid watching I Dream of Jeannie was the same thickness as a normal piece of paper. It was like they didn't compensate for the size difference of the person interacting with the giant object.
Very true. Well, and that was an across the board thing. I mean, that's like the walnut shell. That's like other things that are yet to come as far as like there being like not a I guess a ratio of size, or what is the proper term for that? If it's a 1/16th model,
Yeah.
it should be a 1/16th model across the board when clearly it's not.
No, definitely not. So he goes inside, and he's hiding from the giant wife, and I don't know what he's hiding behind, because he crawls into this crack, and I don't know what it's supposed to be, because you never see like a big, like a backed out version of him crawling into something. You just see this crack that he crawls into. And then the giant comes in, and yells, "What do I have for dinner?" Like, that's his catchphrase. Like, he says
really
that
is.
so many times.
That and his own little theme. Like those are the two things you know him for.
Yeah, because they do that fee fi fo fum thing, except that's a song. Like, he sings that
Yep.
song, and he sings it multiple times.
Oh yeah. Every single time. Doesn't matter what's going on. It could be a bad meal, it could be something stolen. He always goes to that song, and it's always done in the exact same tone.
Yeah. And at one point, he's, like, asking what he smells, because he can smell Jack like the original story. But his wife says, "I got us some new herbs and spices." I don't know why I found that funny, but I did.
Oh, it's hilarious. Well, it's one time it's that, and next time it's like skunk stew.
Yeah,
I can't remember what the third time is.
Skunk soup. Like, the things that they had the giant eat, it was like they were just trying to think of the most gross things, and I don't know, they thought it would be funny to have the giant eat gross things. I don't think that that's true to the original story, other than the fact that he talked about grinding up human bones to eat bread. I don't think he talked about eating creepy crawlies and skunk soup and whatever else they fed him.
Well, they wanted to reinforce what a terrible individual he was by making fun of his diet.
And in this first scene, he's like eating with his hands, and it's like dribbling down his beard.
Oh, and same thing when he was drinking too. I mean, it was going down his shirt more than it was anything else. And man, he had like half of his chest was exposed. I mean, there was
Yeah. It was like he had a shirt of hair underneath his actual shirt.
Oh God, yes he did. He had a fur coat going on underneath that shirt. Which I suppose, being that high in the sky, you'd probably want to have a little bit of extra hair layer, maybe.
Maybe. I guess it might have been cold. I don't know. And at some point, he yells for his wife to bring him his magic hen. And this magic hen looks like it's made of tinfoil.
Yeah.
Like crunched up tinfoil and maybe painted.
Oh, totally. It was funny when Riff Tracks did it. They're like, "Oh, he got it to go, like one of those fancy to go containers."
Well, when this thing was first brought out, I thought it was like a statue. But then he tells it to lay an egg, and he picks it up, and there's an egg underneath it. And then later they talk to it like it's an actual creature.
Yep.
But they made 0 attempts at making it seem like an actual creature. It does
It
not
didn't even
move.
have eyes.
No. Like I said, it seemed like a wadded up tinfoil thing.
Oh, it totally
It was
was.
all lumpy and misshapen.
But I tell you, the hen is masterful compared to the harp.
Oh, the harp also looked like it was made of tinfoil, but just really badly done.
Oh man, it looked like a 5-year-old did it. And nothing against 5-year-old art, but damn, I mean, you want something a little bit better looking than that.
Yeah, no, the stuff that the giant owned just looked bad.
Yeah. Well, and even from a size perspective, like, I mean, the guy that played the giant was decent sized. I mean, stereotypically, you'd look at him and you'd think he was maybe like a wrestler, like he had that kind of build. But the chair that he sat in made him look small.
That's true.
And the table too, like the table was massive compared to him. Like, it didn't look like, if you were just a really, really tall person and you're sitting at a normal table, you would kind of hope for something along those lines. But he looked like a little kid compared to the table and the chair.
Maybe he was like the BFG, except not the F, the big friendly giant. Have you seen that movie? Because the BFG was a tiny giant. Like, he's huge compared to the people, but he's tiny compared to the other giants. Maybe that's this guy.
That's very possible.
He's not friendly, though.
Yeah. Well, the chair looked like a freaking burrito.
They bought all their furniture at the normal size giant store, but it's just really big for them.
Oh my god, yeah. Well, even his bowl. And I know, like, you have to work within certain things, but like, the bowl was like 1.5 feet across, and this poor guy is sitting there like, he's not, I mean, again, decent sized guy, but the bowl was massive.
That's true, but he ate it all.
He did.
Mostly off screen, but he ate it all. Like, there was awkward cuts around him eating like he was eating, and then it showed him picking up his drink, and then there was a cut showing him picking up the drink again, but the bowl was now empty.
Yeah. Yeah, I think his drink might have been like a flower pot on like a chalice base.
It might have been, now that you mention it.
Like it was all gold, and it looked like about a medium-sized flower pot that had, kind of a fancy base on it.
Who knows? It seemed like they made this on a budget, so maybe that was one of the things they made on a budget.
That is entirely possible.
At some point in here, after he eats, his wife asks, "Is it all right with you if I go to the market?" Which is weird. But he says, "All right, I'll take a nap." And he just lays down in his chair. It was so weird.
Everything he does, like he naps, he eats, and he sings. That's kind of it.
He doesn't have much of a life.
No. Well, it's like the people on Earth, they walk around until used cow auction comes out, or used cow transaction comes about, and then that's kind of the highlight.
Yeah. And I mean, his wife has more of a life than he does, because she goes to market, and later on she says that she's going to go visit Mrs. Ogre, which
yes.
That cracked me up. Visit Mrs. Ogre, okay.
Have fun. But is Mrs. Ogre, is that Fiona from Shrek?
That's what I thought. I was like, she's going to go visit Fiona.
Shrek's going to be there. Get out of my swamp! And then that raises the question, is the swamp in the clouds, or does she come down to Earth?
Oh, who knows?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, there are so many deep questions that we're asking that need to be answered. I think we need to set aside money or start a Kickstarter to be able to fund the backstories for both of these movies.
That's something they can flesh out in the remakes. The big
100%.
budget remakes.
Oh yeah, they totally should. I mean, stretch the sucker to like an hour. You can tell the entire story.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a random narrator.
I actually do want this. This movie's terrible, but I would watch a big budget remake. I totally would.
I would sit next to you, and I'd even buy popcorn.
As soon as it happens, we'll have to make that plan.
I think that sounds awesome.
So once this guy lays over in his chair and goes to sleep, Jack sneaks out, grabs the hen, and goes back down the beanstalk. And the giant wakes up suddenly and says, "My magic hen is gone. I knew I smelled someone." And then Jack gets to the bottom, and his sister says, "Jack's back. He got her magic hen back." And I'm like, what? So this magic hen was apparently theirs, and this is the hen that was in the song that was grabbed by the leg.
Yes.
This hen does not have legs.
Nope.
This hen is a brick of something that does not move.
It's a reheated teriyaki or reheated chow mein or something in like a fancy.
Yeah. So, okay, whatever. It was their hen, and now we got it back. And yeah, that was just really strange. Apparently it belonged to their father, and they said something about his father saying not to overuse it and only make the hen lay when they really need it. Okay.
Well, the mother made note of that specifically. So that's probably more her rule than it was anyone else's. But back to the dad's stuff being stolen. How would the giant sneak in to that very 70s-esque house, steal all of the good stuff, and not be seen?
Oh, somebody saw him because they saw him grab the hen by the leg.
That's true. That's true. But even so, you think about a giant's hands, and you think about maybe that's why the hen doesn't have legs. Maybe they were taken off by the giant.
Oh, wow.
Well, that went dark quick. I apologize.
And then in here you get this other scene where Honest John is now a magic bean salesman. And he's trying to sell magic beans to people, and he buys a bag of just regular beans from a kid for $1. And he says something about he couldn't remember where he got the magic ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, did he know that they were magic to begin with?
I'm assuming not. I'm assuming he probably stole them from someplace and then just was like, "Hey, magic beans," and
Apparently, he accidentally told the truth.
yeah, in some way, shape, or form.
What a strange coincidence.
Yeah, that whole character, like you think about this movie and how okay, so you think about how long Thumbelina is, and then how much how much they the time that they take and everything. And then you look at this one and it was so short that they had to invent another character or flesh out Honest John to the point of being almost more so than Jack. Like he's got a more interesting story than Jack. What does that say?
Yeah, really, because a lot of Jack's story happens while he's hiding.
Yeah.
Like you're seeing what he's seeing of the giants doing their giant stuff, but you're not seeing Jack do anything except when he sneaks out and grabs something and runs away.
Exactly. Well, and when Honest John, when he's got the beans, like we know that at least some time has passed because like everybody knows that he got his hen back.
Yeah, I could. This is another. Like, we talked about this with Thumbelina. I don't know how much time is supposed to be passing because they act like a lot of time is passing, but they're not transitioning anything. I don't think they're changing anybody's costumes.
No.
There's no visual indicators on screen that time is passing, but there's stuff in the dialogue that makes you just know that time has passed, but you wouldn't have known that without them saying it.
Yeah, like literally the only indication that time has passed from a visual perspective is Honest John changing his sign from used cow salesman to used bean salesman or magic bean salesman. Used beans, that would be weird.
One other indication that time is passing is how many times the giant eats lunch.
Oh, that is true.
Which even that,
oh God,
even that doesn't really make sense because after the whole scene with Honest John, Jack is like he's upset about he's not allowed to go back up the beanstalk. And I don't think there was any dialogue indicating that the mom said, don't ever go back up there. But he's alone, so he writes this note and says he's going to go back up and get his father's harp. And did they ever say, I don't remember seeing the harp earlier, and I don't remember them talking about his father owning a harp. It just seemed like that came out of nowhere.
Well, there was the one time when Jack was up the beanstalk where, and it might have, I don't think it was the same time. No, it was a different time. So Jack is up there watching the giant with the harp, and he says, "Harp, play me a song," or whatever. And so the harp does its little song.
Yeah, but that happened after he said he was going to go up and get his father's harp.
Oh.
That happened after that.
Oh, okay.
Because that's another thing that doesn't make sense, because he goes up, sees the giant eat lunch, which is the dish of fried creepy crawlers, which apparently is one of his favorites. And after that meal is when he orders the harp being brought out. And Jack is in hiding watching all this. But oh, and there was also the line about he's talking about, I love creepy crawlies. They could eat them all day. They're so crackly and crunchy. They're delicious. And the wife is just looking at him disgusted. And I was thinking, why did you make him this? If you're so disgusted by it.
Well, you gotta give your husband what he likes. So there you go.
I suppose. I guess.
I mean, just given the messages of marriage in this particular set of movies, that's kind of what I get. But I don't know. I'm assuming it's just you make for your mate what they like because they like it, and even if you're like my dad loves herring, like the little sliced herring, and my mom can't stand it, but she'll still get it for him because he enjoys it. So yeah.
I feel like that's different than actively preparing a dish full of stewed bugs.
I suppose so. So maybe it's different in the clouds. Maybe that is the equivalent of herring.
Maybe. Okay, we'll go with that. But yeah, so this scene is when he has the magic harp, and also he says bag of gold.
A bag of golden eggs, actually.
Yeah.
I think.
So he orders the harp to play, and the harp sings, I am a magic harp. This is my favorite song. And this whole long thing about the harp singing its favorite song. It was really dumb. But also the harp is basically just a radio because it's playing with a full orchestra. That's not harp music.
That was so weird. And then he's like, harp, play for me. All I could think was, Alexa, play whatever. Like, that's kind of what it turned into.
Kinda. I didn't think of that. But yeah, that's exactly what was going on.
And then I got thinking, okay, does this kind of like predict, saying whatever to a machine and it playing whatever you want?
Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny predicted Siri.
Oh, God. What does that say about our world? Everything I know is a lie. Oh, man.
Anyways,
yes.
She says, you may have nothing to do but sit around all day and listen to that harp, but I've got to get down to the cellar and do my chores. So she leaves, the giant falls asleep, and then Jack comes in again. But he was already hiding. He was already there. He was already hiding. But he comes in again, and he hides again.
Yep.
And then the giant wakes up and says that he smells that smell again. He smells Jack. And then it cuts away, well, he sings a song too. And it cuts away to the salesman again. And now people are mad at him. And one person wants to tear him limb from limb. And the other one wants to tar and feather him. And then they decide they're going to hold a meeting to decide what they're going to do with them.
Because they decided to tar and feather him because the first option wasn't good enough of a punishment.
Yeah. So then he sneaks away and hides. Okay. That was just a very random scene to cut in the middle there.
Oh, totally.
And then it goes back to the giant who is rigging up a trap with this giant weight that says 500 pounds. There's also a mouse trap.
Yes. And totally not, it's clearly not a trap. Like, you could tell from the front that there's no way he's going to think it's a trap.
The whole thing was ridiculous. And I thought it was hilarious that the wife was mad that he was doing this at the table.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then he screws up the table by like dropping this 500-pound weight. He dents the table or something. And so she really gets upset.
Yeah. But then there's another extremely random scene where back on Earth, Rosemary comes in with this guy that we've never been introduced to. I have no idea who he is because he's never introduced as anyone, although at the end they kiss, so I guess I'm assuming a boyfriend, but he's not introduced. And she says, I guess Mother's gone out. What's this? Find the note. And then the guy reads that he's gone to the magic land and he'll return soon.
Maybe Rosemary can't read, and so she has to rely on him to read. I don't know.
I mean, depending on what time period you're going for, maybe she, like, certain time periods women weren't allowed to learn to read. So, I mean, it looks like the 60s, but maybe it's like the 1660s.
Yeah, there you go. It's all the 60s. It's the 1760s. It's the 1960s. It's the 1260s. It's all of them.
Yeah. So then you're back at the giant and he yells, where's my food? And then she serves him the skunk soup.
Yep.
Which apparently is his favorite because she says so. And he says, I don't want that. I want something more filling. So she brings him a giant bone that has absolutely no meat on it. And he pretends to eat it.
I was wondering what that was. I couldn't figure it out.
It looked like...
like a turkey leg?
No, it was much bigger than a turkey leg. I think it might have been like a cow bone. Last Christmas, my cousin got a giant bone that looked exactly like that for her dogs. I think it might have been one of those bones. Like, they probably bought it at a pet store.
Yeah. What does it say about the respect that the wife has for the giant?
Well, he liked it because he pretends to eat it and says, that's more like it.
Maybe he's just like humoring her. He doesn't actually like her cooking.
So then Jack comes in and hides again. And I'm just confused as to what's going on here. Because he's... it never shows him leave. It just shows him coming in and hiding. And then the giant's like, it's that smell again. And the wife's like, no, it's the skunk soup. No, he knows that there's something there. He starts saying his same song, except there's a line in there about his hen and his eggs have been stolen. So did they cut a scene where Jack steals his bag of golden eggs? Because at least in the version I watched, I did not see Jack steal anything with the hen.
No, he didn't steal anything but the hen, but I know that in the original oh gosh, in the original Jack and the Beanstalk story, I thought there was a bag of eggs that was stolen.
I'm pretty sure that in the original story, he did go up and steal multiple things.
Right, because it
But
was
in
like
this
three
version, I didn't see him steal a bag of eggs, but the giant sings that his bag of eggs has been stolen. And we've seen Jack enter and hide 2 or 3 times and do nothing else. So it feels like they cut out a scene of him stealing these eggs.
It's entirely possible. I mean, we've seen some of the creative decisions that have been made on these movies or these segments, so I would not at all be surprised.
Yeah, it feels like, and I mean, I shouldn't be surprised that they overlooked this, but if they're going to cut out the scene of him stealing the eggs, why not cut out the line where the giant says that his eggs have been stolen? And also cut out the extra scenes of him sneaking in and hiding.
Who knows? The continuity would have been destroyed if you would have removed all 3 hiding scenes.
Sure, the continuity.
Yes, because continuity is clearly important to them.
It's so important. It's the most important.
100%. I mean, if they gave Oscars for continuity, this movie would be in the top, 1,500 or 2,000 movies.
So then his wife says that he's too upset to eat. He should take a nap, and she's going to go visit Mrs. Ober. So this is where she goes to visit Fiona.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack sneaks out while he's asleep and unties the harp from the trap, which I did not realize that the harp had even been tied to the trap.
Continuity.
I had to rewind it, and I could see in one scene, you could see a little rope sort of coming off the harp, but the other scenes, it was not tied to anything. So then the giant wakes up and freaks out and then knocks himself unconscious on the weight. It seemed so weird that they would do something intentionally funny. But that doesn't last long because he ends up following him anyways. And then his mother, when he gets down to the bottom of the beanstalk, his mother says that he's been gone 3 times. So they had to have cut a scene.
Yeah, that sounds like it.
And Jack gets down, he gets an axe, he chops down the beanstalk, and then a very normal-sized man falls past the window.
Well, it's a portal thing. You go up the beanstalk, and it's actually a portal, like in Super Mario Brothers. And then when he comes down, he just becomes a normal-sized dude. That's why he's small at the table up in the clouds.
Okay. It only works on him. That's
yeah, exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
Perfect sense.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, makes as much sense as anything else.
And then Jack seems abnormally chipper. Like, I get that it's like a good thing, like he's escaped from this evil giant, but like he seems completely unaffected by the fact that he just literally killed a man.
Well, and how many people under that normal-sized man were killed as well? I mean, he fell to earth, made a man-sized hole, but who's not to say that there was something underneath him?
Who knows? There could have been.
Yes.
But then he walks away from the window. He's got this big smile on his face and says, well, that's the end of the giant. I feel sorry for Mrs. Giant. She wasn't so bad. She just got mixed up with the wrong kind of man.
Oh, that line was hilarious. That almost feels like it was improvised, doesn't it?
I suppose. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that felt improvised, so just add this to the list.
Well, on one end of it, you've got Thumbelina that was probably like word for word taken from whatever their source material was. And then on the other end, you get Jack and the Beanstalk. And it's like the totally opposite of it.
They were just given a general idea of something and then told to go with it.
Exactly.
And then they all start singing about a happy ending, and literally everybody we've ever seen in this story starts coming into their house. and singing with them. And then Honest John comes by the window and he looks in like he really wants to come in, but he doesn't know if he should. And then they invite him in. I thought he tripped and fell into the giant hole. And I thought they were going to say he died. But then he pops up and he's fine. and that's the end. And there's an abrupt cut back to the Santa story after that.
Yep. Well, it's important to get right back into, the fascinating tale of Santa, after such a wonderfully, wonderfully inspirational tale.
It was so bizarre.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm wondering, having seen the Thumbelina one, where they had this whole opening credits for the Thumbelina story and an end credits for the Thumbelina story, with as abrupt of a cut as the Jack and the Beanstalk story got, did they cut out some credits? Like, was this a movie by itself that maybe at one time also advertised the park, but they cut it all off, but only on the Jack and the Beanstalk one, not the Thumbelina one?
I'm assuming so, because from what I've seen on Wikipedia and then IMDb, which take those as you will, these both came out in 1970. And then in 1972, both of them were used in Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny. So I would guarantee you this thing probably had, which... when you look at, and I guess I've said it, but looking at Thumbelina, you had all the build up, the showing of the park, her interacting with all this stuff. Being that you didn't have that in Jack and the Beanstalk, I'm not sure how it would have started and ended, to include the park, but it would have had to have something.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, the cut was so abrupt. I mean, there was a lot of weird cuts in this movie, but that one stood out to me.
Oh, 100%.
Especially after watching the Thumbelina version. Knowing what they added to the Thumbelina version that could have been cut. Just having this cut off so abruptly seemed strange.
Oh, absolutely. And there's absolutely no doubting that. So I really don't know. I wish I had some answers, but there's no rhyme or reason to be able to judge what this was supposed to be. And Thumbelina, it's pretty clear, but Jack and the Beanstalk, there's no allusions to Pirates World. There's nothing that would indicate that it was set there other than the fact that it was part of this Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny thing. It makes no sense from that perspective.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just another baffling thing about this movie.
Yeah. Another thing that'll be lost to time.
Well, then getting back to the main story.
Can we call it the main story, though?
I think it's been like 2 hours since we last talked about Santa. So it's so weird that it doesn't fit with anything. It's just so weird to have that completely unrelated story happen in the middle of the weird Santa story. And now we're back there.
So would you say it's a weirdness sandwich?
Yeah, kind of. Anyways, at the beginning of the story, there was some different narration of Santa leading into the story, talking about Thumbelina or Jack and the Beanstalk. But then at the end, if I remember right, I think it just is exactly the same. Because the way he talks, he says something like, "Now that you know the story, this is why you should never get discouraged and always believe."
I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure that it wasn't that exact line, but something along those lines.
Right.
It just said, "Now that you know the story," and I don't think he said, "Now that you know the story of Thumbelina," or "Now that you know the story of Jack and the Beanstalk." It's just, "Now that you know the story, this is why you should never get discouraged and always believe." And they said something like, "Believe only good things, and good things will happen."
Oh yeah, because that's the way the world works. Look at what Pirates World is it's a perfect example of that. Nothing bad ever happened there. Oh wait, 2 years later they shut down. Never mind what I said.
Yeah. And then this girl comes up with her dog. That we saw the dog earlier. I guess the dog was also telepathically called by Santa, because I think he called him Rebel.
Oh yeah, yep, that he did a couple of times.
So Santa telepathically called this dog for a reason, because this girl tells him that the dog can get him out. And then Santa, after he said all this stuff about always believing in good things, and he says something about like, "Well, if all the other animals couldn't, I don't know if he can." So Santa doesn't take his own advice about being positive.
No, he doesn't. Again, it's that stream of consciousness. Like there's no rhyme or reason to what comes out of his mouth.
No. And the girl says something like, he'll think of a way. And then all the kids run away. It's so bizarre.
Oh, it was. It was totally. The kids spend more time running in this movie than anything else.
Yeah, kinda. Especially when they're all in a crowd, that's all they're doing. They're running in one direction or the other. And then this is the scene where Santa actually does the sensible thing and takes off his coat. He takes off his belt and coat, saying that he simply can't bear it another moment. And also he's moaning very creepily.
Oh, yes. Yes, he is. And I think he falls asleep, too, doesn't he?
Yes.
Like, he keeps falling asleep. He's like, him and the giant are either the same person or they're related.
Yeah, he falls asleep. He fell asleep multiple times in this movie.
And how does he not have, like, massive sunburn or heat stroke or something?
Maybe that's why he keeps falling asleep. He's dangerously ill.
Oh, well, very possible. Very, very possible.
But then he wakes up to a siren.
Yep.
A faraway siren getting closer and closer. And then you see a very disturbing rabbit costume driving a fire truck. And at that moment I was like, oh yeah, this movie is called Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny. I completely forgot. I forgot that there was supposed to be this rabbit. And this is like 10 minutes to the end of the movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like the latest reveal of a title character you will ever see in like any movie ever. Oh, it's so nuts.
So, this creepy rabbit is driving a fire truck for some reason, with all the kids on the back, and this is where the dog is barking, but also he's not barking.
Yeah, the barks are like a second or two off of what they should be.
Well, at one point, he's not barking at all, he's just running, and there's still barking noises
God.
happening. It's like, at first it's off, and then it's off, because he's not barking, but also he's barking. He's telepathically barking.
There you go. Oh God. Moreover than that, okay, you think a guy in a rabbit or in a bunny costume, he's driving like a stick shift, like antique fire truck.
Yeah,
and
it's one of those crank ones. It's old. They have to crank it to start it.
Right, and there are like potholes everywhere.
Yes.
The road that they're on. So they start off with, you see the fire truck like rolling through the park, and so it's like,
no,
hey.
At first they're in the woods. They're in the woods, driving down a dirt road, and then they're in the park. And I'm like, okay, but then they drive through the Pirates World Park, and then they're back in the woods.
Yeah, and it's a rutted trail. Like it's not even an unincorporated road. It is like logger trail. There are potholes everywhere. So this poor guy who can't see has to drive a stick shift, like antique fire truck that's probably worth quite a lot around, and with all the kids on the back of the damn truck, and he's got to drive this thing down in a relatively straight direction, but still manage to avoid all these potholes.
Yeah.
I mean, kudos to this guy.
It's so random. It is random.
It is so random.
And then you get another one of those stream of consciousness things, because it's Santa listening to the siren. He's like, where's that siren coming from? Wherever there's a siren, there's a fire. But I don't see any smoke. Where's that siren coming from? It's like this whole long rambling monologue where he's saying the same thing 3 different ways.
Yeah, that was a one-take beauty right there. There was no question about that.
And then there's like this weirdly uncomfortable close-up on the rabbit.
Oh yeah, and it goes on forever. Like there's a close-up of his feet underneath the tires, and then you've got Santa doing the close talking thing on the rabbit, or on the ice cream bunny. It's like, what the hell's going on?
Well,
I'm so confused.
In this whole scene, there was a lot of weird camera stuff, like weird camera angles on the kids. Like the camera's like below the kids looking up, below the rabbit looking up, down on the rabbit's feet. And then, first Santa says, I better get my coat back on quickly. Can't let anyone see me without it.
Oh God, that was so weird.
And then the kids are singing this song about saving Santa. And then the fire truck comes out of the woods towards the beach. And there's this weird camera angle where Santa has his arm up on his sleigh. So it's like his arm and the sleigh is this frame on the fire truck. And as the fire truck drives closer and closer, it's like a zoom in on the rabbit's face through Santa's arm until the rabbit's face is like the only thing you see through Santa's arm. It is so strange. And then there's this dramatic shot of Santa from below, like he's some sort of weird hero.
Oh, it's totally an MCU movie shot right there.
Yeah. And then he's like, well, my old friend, the ice cream bunny, I hope you can help me out of my predicament. And then the bunny's doing this creepy wink thing.
Oh, God, the wink is so classically bad. Like, there aren't words to describe how weird that is.
And then he's like, well, Rebel, you old hound, were you the one who brought the ice cream bunny? I'm like, why would you automatically assume that the dog summoned this rabbit when all of these kids are with the rabbit and the kids can talk? Why is the dog your go-to? Like the dog did this.
Because the dog is apparently, at least to Santa, the most intelligent guy in the room.
Oh, it's so bizarre. So bizarre.
Yes.
And then this is where you get like the definitive answer as to when it is, because he says there's only 4 days left till Christmas. Do you think we can make it on time? Of course we can. And then there's more kazooing. Yep. And then the bunny starts awkwardly bouncing and patting the little girl on the head.
Oh, that is so weird. And the thing is, throughout all of this, there's like the Santa's doing the whole stream of consciousness, like talking.
Yeah.
This whole thing, it takes what should have been probably a 30-second to a minute take. Goes on for what, maybe 8 minutes?
Probably, because it was like 10 minutes till the end when the bunny showed up and there's no credits. So
yeah.
And then, like you said, with the one take thing, he has this line. I think I wrote it down word for word. He says, "We've established that we will try to make it, won't we? So, children, you be looking forward to your presents. We'll try very hard."
Oh my God. And it's like, you have 4 days. I think it's enough time. Good Lord.
But will it? Because instead of pulling the magic sleigh out of the sand, Santa gets on the back of the fire truck and they just drive into the woods.
But then the sleigh, like, all the kids run back to the sleigh and the sleigh disappears.
Yes. So if the sleigh can disappear and teleport back to the North Pole, because the narrator says that it is back at the North Pole waiting when he gets there, why couldn't he do that?
It was the power of the ice cream bunny, I guess.
If the ice cream bunny had that kind of power, why did he load Santa on the back of the fire truck and drive into the woods?
Maybe because Santa and the sleigh have to be parted, and it has to be. You're asking questions that I can't even remotely begin to answer because, oof, I got nothing.
Yeah, well, and the whole thing with them driving into the woods, like you mentioned how bumpy the road was.
Oh, yeah.
Santa is yelling to the children that they all need to believe and be good all year long. And half of what he was saying, I could not understand. The fire truck's engine was so loud. But as he's talking, he's like waving and bouncing and trying to hold on to the back of this truck and not fall off as it hits all of the potholes.
That was quite a feat. Can you imagine, like, holding on, and with an antique truck like that? I can't imagine that the shocks are very good.
No. I just laughed so hard at Santa, like literally being racked, just trying to say his lines. And then, bizarrely, you cut to a shot of Tom and Huck still in the shrubs, looking at each other incredulously. And I'm like, so were they just sitting in the shrubs this whole time? And did they just watch all of this stuff and never do anything except just watch?
Yeah, I think that's probably the thought, generally.
So they were subjected to the forbidden visual of Santa without his coat.
Yes, yes. I was thinking though, there was a point earlier in the movie where Santa takes off his hat like super early on.
Maybe that's not as forbidden.
No, that's not as bad as yeah. Yeah, definitely coat and hat. And Santa's supposed to know this stuff. How did he miss like, two Missouri boys sitting in the trees?
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, Missouri. Well, they're in Florida. Did they just float down a magic river that led from Missouri to Florida?
Yes. The short and the long answer is yes.
But yeah, that after the weird shot of Tom and Huck looking at each other incredulously, the kids remember the sleigh, they run back, and it just disappears. And the narrator says that it will be waiting at the North Pole when Santa gets back, and then it says the end, and that's literally the end. There's no credits,
Yep.
it just stops.
Yep, basically. I mean, what else is there to say at that point?
Nothing. It's
Yeah.
done. This is
So,
like as I was watching this, I was like, I've seen I don't remember what it was, but I know I've seen things where people parody bad kid shows, probably from that era. And
mhm.
I always felt like whenever I saw it, I was like, this is too dumb. It's too way over the top. Like they're taking it to the ninth degree.
Mhm.
But now I'm thinking they didn't go far enough because this is weirder than any parody that I've ever
Oh
seen.
yeah. And this was of the time. I mean, there's a lot you can say about Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny. I mean, whether it be from a critical perspective, from a laugh your butt off perspective, but there's no way to define what this is. Like you can't define it as a Christmas movie because it's really not. You can't define it as an Easter movie, obviously, because it's not. It's not a normal narrative, but you really can't say that it's any kind of narrative because, like, it is basically okay. Santa gets stuck in the sand, and the ice cream bunny eventually helps him out. But is he really needed? There's nothing to this.
It was the most paper thin of paper thin plots.
Oh yeah,
So much so that it only took them like 20 minutes and they had to bulk it up with two completely unrelated stories.
oh yeah. Well, and it's of all the things that if you wanted to talk, why go Santa? I mean, you're not going to associate Santa in Florida unless they had the sled laying around and they're like, oh hey, let's try and do this thing.
I
Because
mean, why not just maybe shoot a few more scenes and then re release Jack and the Beanstalk and Thumbelina as two completely separate movies? Like, that would make more sense than shooting this weird, incoherent story about Santa getting stuck in the sand.
well, and it's not to say that you couldn't take it and do something with it. I mean, you could, in theory, take that and make it something. Release it at the holidays. Why even have the ice cream bunny attached to it? Because he didn't really, honestly, do anything.
And also, what is an ice cream bunny?
I don't know if it was. I couldn't find anything on it. Like I don't know if it's like maybe like a mascot for the park, which is Pirates World. So you wouldn't think that there would be any kind of a thing with that.
Well, when you first mentioned like the title, I thought you meant Easter Bunny. I didn't realize that there's a thing called an ice cream bunny. So, what is an ice cream bunny, and why wasn't he just an Easter bunny?
Right. Well, and that's the thing. You could have gone that route, but I suppose they wanted it to stand out maybe from everything else.
I don't know. I'm just so confused.
No, I don't
why?
blame you. I don't
Why?
blame you at all.
Why is the ice cream bunny an ice cream bunny?
Well, why does he drive a fire engine?
I don't know. It's so random.
Well, and it's like it honestly the ice cream bunny itself is like a perfect summation of what this movie or what these movies are. It's a random thing. There's no description for it beforehand. There's no real need for it after. It's just a thing that's randomly there.
Yeah. This is such a weird movie. This is like I've until I met you, I've never been one to watch a movie because it's bad purely for the entertainment. And I'm not sure that I would necessarily describe myself that way now, but this movie I would watch it again just because it's so weird. I would watch this with people because I want to see what their reaction to it is.
Well, that's the thing. It
Like
is,
I actively want
yeah.
to watch this with someone else just to see them watch it.
Oh, totally.
This
Like the
is
look
so
on their
weird.
face. Oh, totally. The look on their face when they get done. And that's why it's, from a Riff Tracks perspective, I think it's one of their best because
I
it's
need
such
to
a
see
weird
this Riff
thing.
Tracks version.
Oh, I can hook you up with it. I think it's actually on Tubi right now. I'm not sure if it's the Rapunzel version or the Jack and the Beanstalk version,
You
but
mean
both are out there
Thumbelina?
and relatively
Unless
easy
there's
to
a
find.
third one.
Oh God. I think the world would explode. The world could not handle a third version of this movie. Yeah, the Riff Tracks versions are I've only seen the Jack and the Beanstalk one, but they are very funny and they're well done. And again, they do a relatively good job of being respectful. Like they make fun of it, but it's never in a rude way.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I mean this is the a classic good bad movie. It's such a weird. It's not even bad per se. It's weird. It's like you think about it and goes, okay, well, who was the audience for this? Why did they decide to put Santa of all things around Jack and the Beanstalk or Thumbelina? Like what was the thought process?
I wish there was like a behind the scenes making of documentary or just something from the creators telling us why.
Oh no, I agree. And
Why
I've
is this?
I've looked
Why?
around and I've not seen anything, and that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, but there is just nothing. There is so little known about what it is. Like anything that's of substance that I've been able to find, and that doesn't mean that it's not out there. It could be a matter of the wrong search terms. It could be a lot of stuff. Like I would bet you that if anyone has information, probably Riff Tracks does because they do a fair amount of research on these things
Mm-hmm.
that they don't put in because it's not relevant to what they're talking about. But yeah, I don't know. It's such an anomaly. It'd be like, because like you think Disney World, anything that's Disney is going to be well documented. If it's
Mm-hmm.
Busch Gardens or Sea World or whatever, they're all things that would make sense. And there have been a lot of parks or amusement parks and places like that have gone under, but I don't know that they had this kind of thing. Like they didn't
Yeah.
have the full range of videos and productions that Pirate World had.
It's just one of those weird things that I don't know if we'll ever get an answer to, and I
Yeah.
really want an answer.
I don't blame you. Well, and it's even like look at all the questions we brought up over the course of this discussion. Things
Yeah.
that some of them are goofy off the wall stuff, but some very legitimate questions about source materials and you know the different what were these things used for, and I guarantee you the answers are out there, but it's just knowing where to look.
Or who to ask.
Yeah. And the thing is, the people that were there at that time, they're not old, but they're probably in their 70s and 80s, but that they're out there.
Time's running out. We gotta find them.
Yes, we do. We need to get the rights so we can start making the big budget remakes of these things.
I want a big budget remake. This is so weird that I feel like a big budget remake would be so much more entertaining just because of what you could do with it. Like, I want them to recreate the weird camera angles too. Like everything about this is so perfectly bad that it's perfect.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, just the thing that always got me from the very first time I saw this was the Easter Bunny's wink. Like that wink is just so. It's like what why okay, his pant obviously the suit is sitting too low, like his bunny tail is like sitting in weird angles, but you can make him blink. You can't do anything else, but you can make him blink, and he can apparently drive a stick shift antique fire truck.
It's so
I mean,
weird.
the hell. And I will say, the ice cream bunny was on screen for what, probably 5 minutes tops. He was more entertaining than Santa.
Entertaining in the way that it's just like, what?
Yep. Exactly that.
Like I said, I completely forgot about the title, Ice Cream Bunny. So when he showed up, I'm like, what?
And that's got to be some kind of record for showing up when he did. I mean, truly.
Uh, it's, it's so weird.
Yes, it is. But well worth the wait to watch, I hope.
Yes. No, this is like, I I thought that like Santa Claus conquers the Martians was weird. This totally blew it out of the water.
Oh yeah. There's not even like Santa Claus versus the Martians or Santa Claus conquers the Martians is like Oscar worthy compared to this.
You're doing the same thing that I've been doing. Like, and I did this to this movie too, saying Santa Claus versus. Like, I kept in my head calling this Santa versus the Ice Cream Bunny, and Santa versus the Martians,
Mm-hmm.
but it's Santa Claus conquers the Martians, and Santa Claus or Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny. I don't know why I keep. It must be the Batman versus Superman thing. I
Oh
keep
yeah.
adding verses in between them.
So the ultimate question that I want you to answer: which do you prefer? Do you prefer Jack and the Beanstalk or Thumbelina?
Probably Jack of the Beanstalk.
I would agree. I think it's a better put together story. Um, I don't know, like just some of the stuff that goes along with Thumbelina. It just kind of I don't know. It's okay. It's but this is it feels more like a movie.
And I mean, Thumbelina was longer, and it felt longer.
It did.
Jack and the Beanstalk clipped along at a good pace, even though it was weird, and I'm fairly certain there was at least one scene missing.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a well paced story.
Yep. Even though the chicken didn't have eyes and looked like a tinfoil ball.
Yeah. So weird. I need
Oh
to
yeah.
find somebody I can make watch this so I can watch them watch it.
Have them look at the poster going in because the poster in itself it is as strange as the movie. It really truly is. Like it's Santa and this like really awesome looking bunny just like sitting there in the fire truck. And then like toys are flying out the back. And the tagline of this, so it's Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny, the amazing story of Santa in big trouble and his exciting rescue by the daring Ice Cream Bunny. It's breathtaking, fun for all.
Breathtaking in that I would gasp thinking, what is going on?
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. So according to this poster, it actually showed in theaters.
How many people actually saw this thing?
I don't know. It's actually got like the proper like the Kodak Eastman film. It was filmed in color scope and it's matinees only Saturday and Sunday. Oh wow. I didn't know that.
Those privileged few children who saw it during the brief window of time that it was sent to theaters.
Yeah.
The memories they made.
Oh, absolutely. That's crazy. I mean, there you go. Everything you ever wanted to know and more.
Yeah. I just realized we've been talking for almost 3 hours about a movie whose one version was only just over an hour.
Oh my God. Wow. Well, two-parter, I guess.
It's so bizarre. I love it.
Yes. Now, yes, you've come over to the dark side of the film of the cinema community.
It's kind of funny. I was getting a bunch of old files off of one of my hard drives because I'm doing the Alice in Wonderland. Like, I was trying to save myself some time by using some older reviews that I did like back at the beginning of my channel. I'm gonna end up re-editing them because I found out I cut those things way down. Like when Sarah and I would record, before I made podcasts, we were making podcasts.
Oh,
And then I would
nice.
just cut them way down to make a YouTube video.
Mhm,
So I guess I'm just going to re-edit them and they're going to be podcasts and longer than the YouTube videos.
mhm.
But we had one where we were talking about movies that were so bad and people watching them on purpose, liking them because they were bad. And Sarah looked at me incredulously and she's like, people do that? When I got to that part, I was like, wow, little did we know I would end up doing that myself. Because
I'm
I
so
like
proud of
explained,
you.
yes, some people do actually do that. And that at that point, I had never done that before. I didn't
Well,
think I would.
I
And
don't think it's something you do though. Like obviously there are people that, you look at anyone that loves Mystery Science Theater 3000 or any of the dozens of shows that have been spawned since, or even just, when you sit around with friends and make fun of any movie, really, both
mhm.
the good and the bad points. It is that sense of community of people watching stuff together and making fun of it. But I mean, it's not a new thing, but it's become more of a thing.
Yeah,
And I think it's a little bit more acceptable as far as what it is.
yeah, especially with people actually making their career out of it.
Oh yeah. And there's a ton of people that do.
Well, I suppose we should actually record an outro.
Yeah, we probably should.
Well, I guess that's going to be the end of this episode. Do you want to let people know where they can find you?
Oh, certainly. So you can locate me on YouTube. I'm Trivial Theater. And if you just type in Trivial Theater into the search bar, or if you just go youtube.com/Trivial Theater, you'll end up at my page. I do a little bit of everything, but it tends to be random, obscure, and straight up bad movies. So stop by. I've done Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny as was one of my earliest reviews. But would love to see you there. And yeah, otherwise you can also check me out on Twitter. I'm trivia_chick, and that's chick without a K.
Okay, and I will have links in the description. Well, thanks for joining me and introducing me to this amazing film.
I'm so glad you enjoyed.
We will have to do this again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. I'll keep my eyes open because there's a lot of good ones out there. So
Okay. Well, until next time.
take care.
Thank you to Nicki for joining me for these last 2 episodes. If you want more from her, I'll have her links in the description below. And she'll be back soon because I have a massive extra long episode on the way. This will be a special extended episode compiling all 4 episodes of the recent Wonderland Wednesday miniseries we did on my YouTube channel this month, with plenty of bonus conversation that was cut from the YouTube episodes. If you're a fan of Nicki and her takes on bad movies, you're not going to want to miss this. Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on I Heart Movies.